Sometimes the hardest thing to accept in life is that the person you feel the strongest connection with is also the person you cannot be with right now. You feel it every day, that quiet pull toward them. Even when you try to move on, even when you tell yourself it's over, something inside you still whispers their name. And that can be confusing. Because logically, things didn't work out. Maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe communication fell apart. Maybe distance, misunderstandings, or fear created space between you. But emotionally, the connection never fully disappeared. And if you've been feeling that lately, this message might explain why. Because sometimes two people are not separated because they aren't meant to be together. Sometimes they are separated because they are not ready yet. Think about it for a moment. The strongest connections in life rarely come easily. They don't arrive quietly and stay perfectly smooth. Instead, they shake you. They challenge you. They force you to grow in ways you never expected. And that's exactly what this kind of connection does. When two people are meant to build something meaningful together, life often places them on separate paths first. Not to punish them, not to break them, but to prepare them. Because if two people come together before they have grown into the right versions of themselves, the relationship can collapse under the weight of unhealed wounds. Imagine two people who care deeply about each other, but one struggles with trust, while the other struggles with emotional vulnerability. One fears abandonment. The other fears commitment. At first, the connection feels magical, intense, electric. But over time, those fears begin to surface. Misunderstandings grow. Small issues turn into big conflicts. And suddenly, the very connection that once felt perfect begins to feel painful. Not because the love isn't real, but because both people still have lessons to learn. This is something many people misunderstand about deep connections. They assume that if something is meant to be, it should be easy from the beginning. But in reality, the most meaningful relationships often require transformation first. Sometimes life separates two people so they can become stronger individually. Because the version of you who will eventually experience a healthy relationship with them is not the same version of you who first met them. The person you were back then might have been searching for validation. Maybe you were giving too much of yourself. Maybe you were accepting less than you deserved just to keep the connection alive. But life has a strange way of teaching us what we need to learn. And often the lesson begins when the connection is no longer right in front of us. That silence you feel now, that distance that sometimes hurts more than words, it forces reflection. It forces growth. You start asking yourself deeper questions. Questions like, why did I tolerate certain behaviors? Why did I ignore my own needs? Why was I so afraid of losing someone else that I forgot to value myself? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are also powerful because the moment you start answering them honestly, something begins to change inside you. You begin to rebuild your sense of self. You begin to rediscover your worth. And slowly the version of you that once felt dependent on someone else's presence begins to transform into someone stronger, calmer, and more grounded. At the same time, something similar may be happening on the other side of the connection. Even if you cannot see it, even if you haven't spoken in months, growth rarely happens loudly. Most of the time, it happens quietly. Behind closed doors, inside late-night thoughts, inside moments when someone realizes they pushed away something meaningful because they were afraid. Fear has a powerful way of controlling people. Fear of being hurt, fear of not being enough, fear of losing independence, fear of being vulnerable. And sometimes people run from connections not because they don't care, but because they care more than they are ready to handle. But here's the important part. The universe, life, destiny, whatever you choose to call it, has a way of bringing clarity when people grow into their higher selves. When you stop chasing, when you stop forcing outcomes, when you stop trying to control something that is bigger than you, something interesting happens. Your energy shifts. You begin focusing on your own life again. Your goals, your peace, your happiness. And ironically, that is often the moment when everything begins to realign. Because the healthiest relationships are not built on desperation. They are built on two individuals who have learned how to stand strong on their own. Two people who choose each other, not out of fear of being alone, but out of genuine love and respect. That kind of connection feels different. It feels calm. It feels safe. It feels steady. There are no mind games. No constant anxiety. No wondering where you stand. Just clarity, mutual effort, and a sense that both people are finally meeting each other as their true selves. But reaching that point sometimes requires time apart, time to grow, time to heal, time to learn the lessons that could not be learned while standing side by side. So if you've been feeling confused about someone, if part of you still feels connected to them even though circumstances pushed you apart, instead of asking why things didn't work out before, ask yourself a different question. Who am I becoming because of this experience? Are you becoming someone stronger? Someone more self-aware? Someone who understands their boundaries, their worth, and their emotional needs better than before? Because if that is happening, then this connection, no matter what its final outcome may be, has already served a powerful purpose in your life. And sometimes when two people finish growing into the versions of themselves they were meant to become, life has a surprising way of crossing their paths again. But this time the energy is different. The chaos is gone. The insecurity is gone. What remains is something much more stable. Two people who finally understand themselves and each other. Until then, the most important thing you can do is focus on your own evolution. Build your life. Protect your peace. Learn to love yourself in the same way you once hoped someone else would. Because the truth is, the right connection will never require you to shrink yourself. It will meet you at the level you have grown into. And sometimes the distance you are experiencing right now is not the end of the story. Sometimes it is simply the chapter where both people are becoming the individuals they were always meant to be. So take a deep breath, trust the process. And remember, what is truly meant for you will never be lost. It will only find you when you are ready for it. Welcome to Psychology Facts. If you're interested in understanding the deeper truths of the human mind, relationships, and emotional growth, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a video that might change the way you see your life.